You think you know someone. You think you can trust them with your life, your dreams, your future. And then, in one single moment, one sentence in a language they don't think you understand, everything you believed comes crashing down like glass shattering on concrete. That's what happened to me. My own sister, my own blood, the person I would have died for, tried to destroy me while smiling in my face, and I stood there, frozen, listening to every word of her betrayal. I'm Michelle, and this is the story of how I discovered that the person closest to me was my worst enemy all along. It started 3 months ago. My sister and I had always talked about going into business together. Ever since we were kids, we'd dream about running our own company, being our own bosses, making something out of nothing. She was my best friend, my confidant, my partner in everything. When we heard about this foreign-owned company that was up for sale, a perfect opportunity in the industry we'd been studying for years, we were both ecstatic. Finally, our dream was within reach. The owner was from Eastern Europe, a businessman who wanted to return to his home country and was looking to sell quickly. The company had good bones, solid revenue, a loyal customer base. It was everything we needed. We'd been saving money separately, planning to pool our resources and make this work. Or at least, that's what I thought we were doing. The day we went to view the company, I was nervous, but excited. I wore my best business suit, prepared all my questions, reviewed all the financial documents they'd sent over. My sister seemed excited too, but there was something in her eyes that morning, something I couldn't quite place, a glitter of something that wasn't just excitement. It was almost like anticipation, like she knew something I didn't. We arrived at the office building downtown, took the elevator to the 7th floor, and were greeted by the owner, Mr. Volkov, and his assistant. The space was beautiful, modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I could already see us there, building our empire, making our dreams real. My sister walked beside me, and I remember reaching over to squeeze her hand, sharing that moment of possibility with her. She squeezed back, but her hand was cold. So cold. Mr. Volkov began the tour, showing us the different departments, introducing us to key staff members, explaining the operations. Everything was in English at first, professional and straightforward. I was taking notes, asking questions, being thorough. My sister was quieter than usual, but I figured she was just observing, taking it all in. We'd always had different styles. I was the talker, she was the thinker, or so I believed. Then, about halfway through the tour, Mr. Volkov received a phone call. He excused himself, speaking rapidly in what I later learned was Russian mixed with another Eastern European language. His assistant remained with us, and that's when everything changed. My sister, thinking I couldn't understand, thinking she was safe, started speaking to the assistant in the same language. Here's what you need to know about me. Our father was a linguist, obsessed with languages. Growing up, he'd play recordings of different languages at dinner, teach us phrases, encourage us to learn. My sister hated it, refused to engage, would leave the table angry, but I loved it. I soaked it up like a sponge. By the time I was in college, I was fluent in 5 languages, including Russian and Polish, but I never advertised it. I never made a big deal about it. It was just something I did for myself, for my own growth. My sister knew I studied languages in college, but she'd always dismissed it, never paid attention to which ones, never thought it mattered. So when she started speaking to that assistant in Russian, she had no idea I understood every single word. At first, I didn't react. I just stood there, pretending to look at some charts on the wall, my pen poised over my notebook, and that's when I heard it. The sentence that made my blood turn to ice. Don't worry, she doesn't know that I'm buying this company alone. She thinks we're partners, but by tomorrow, the down payment from my account will be processed, and the company will be mine. She'll be devastated, but that's what she gets for always being the favorite. I froze. Completely froze. My pen stopped moving. My breathing stopped. Time itself seemed to stop. The assistant responded, asking if she was sure about cutting me out. And my sister, my own sister, laughed. She actually laughed and said, "She's always been too trusting, too naive. This is business, and in business, only the strongest survive. I've been planning this for months." Months. She'd been planning to betray me for months. While we sat at coffee shops discussing our future company, while we stayed up late talking about our vision, while I shared every idea, every strategy, every dream I had. She was plotting to steal it all from under me. The pain that shot through my chest in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It was like being stabbed with a hot knife, the blade twisting slowly, deliberately. This was my sister. We shared a bedroom growing up. We held each other when our mother died. We promised each other we'd always be there, always be loyal, always be sisters first, everything else second. And here she was, casually discussing my destruction like it was a simple business transaction. But I didn't move. I didn't let them see the earthquake happening inside me. I kept my face neutral, kept my body language relaxed, kept pretending I was just another stupid American who only spoke English. Because in that moment, something shifted in me. The pain transformed into something else, something harder, something colder, rage, pure, crystallized rage. They continued talking. The assistant mentioned that Mr. Volkov would be pleased, that he'd agreed to this arrangement because my sister had offered more money and had promised a quicker closing. My sister explained that she'd been working a second job for the past year, saving every penny, while letting me think we were both saving at the same pace. She'd been to see Mr. Volkov 3 times before, without me, negotiating her own deal, cutting me out completely. She told the assistant that after the sale went through, she'd tell me that Mr. Volkov had decided to sell to someone else, that we'd lost the opportunity. She'd comfort me, play the supportive sister, and then, a few months later, she'd announced that she'd found another opportunity and had purchased a company on her own. By then, it would be too late for me to do anything about it. I'd be left with my savings and my shattered dreams, while she built an empire on the foundation of our shared vision that she stole from me. Every word was a knife. Every sentence was a betrayal. And I stood there, taking it all, absorbing it all, while maintaining my cover, because I realized something important. If I confronted her right then, she'd find a way to spin it, to manipulate the situation, maybe even to still complete the purchase before I could do anything. No. I needed to be smart. I needed to be strategic. I needed to be everything she thought I wasn't. Mr. Volkov returned, and the tour continued. My sister smoothly switched back to English, smiling at me, even putting her arm around my shoulders at one point, telling Mr. Volkov how excited we both were about this opportunity. The duplicity was breathtaking. The acting was flawless. If I hadn't heard what I'd heard, I never would have suspected a thing. How long had she been wearing this mask? How long had I been the fool? We finished the tour, thanked Mr. Volkov, and headed back to the car. In the elevator, my sister was practically glowing. She kept talking about how perfect the company was, how we were going to do amazing things together, how this was the beginning of everything we dreamed about. I responded with appropriate enthusiasm, matching her energy, giving her no reason to suspect that I knew. But inside, I was calculating, planning, figuring out my next move. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, processing everything. The betrayal hurt worse than anything I'd ever experienced. This wasn't a stranger, or a business acquaintance, or even a friend. This was my sister, my only sibling, the only family I had left after our father passed away 2 years ago. We'd cried together at his funeral, promised him we'd take care of each other, honor his memory by being successful and staying close. And she was willing to throw all of that away for what? Money? Pride? Because she thought I was the favorite? That phrase kept echoing in my mind. That's what she gets for always being the favorite. What did that even mean? Our parents loved us both. Sure, maybe I was more academically inclined. Maybe I got more scholarships. Maybe I received more praise for my achievements. But that wasn't favoritism. That was just reality. And I never lorded it over her. I never made her feel less than. Or did I? Had I been blind to her resentment all these years? But then I stopped myself. No, this wasn't my fault. Even if she felt jealous, even if she felt overlooked, that didn't justify this level of betrayal. This was a choice she made. A deliberate, calculated, months-long choice to destroy me and take what we'd built together in our minds and hearts. The next morning, I started making calls. I contacted my lawyer, explained the situation in vague terms, asked about options. I called my bank, discussed financing possibilities, explored how quickly I could access my funds, and potentially secure additional capital. I reached out to business contacts I'd been cultivating for years, people my sister didn't even know about, and started building my own strategy. Then I did something that might seem petty, but felt absolutely necessary. I called Mr. Volkov's office and requested a private meeting. Just me. I told his assistant that I had additional questions and wanted to discuss some things separately from my sister, as we were exploring different financial structures for the purchase. The assistant, the same one my sister had conspired with, sounded surprised, but agreed to schedule me for the following afternoon. I walked into that meeting with my head high and my evidence ready. I'd prepared a complete business proposal, a financial package that exceeded what my sister was offering, and most importantly, I'd prepared myself emotionally for what I was about to do. When Mr. Volkov greeted me, I didn't waste time with small talk. "Mr. Volkov, I'm here to make you an offer on your company," I said in perfect Russian. The look on his face was priceless. Complete shock. His assistant, who'd been sitting in on the meeting, went pale. I continued in Russian, explaining that I was aware of the separate negotiations happening with my sister, that I knew she was attempting to cut me out of the deal, and that I was prepared to make a substantially better offer with faster closing terms. I told him that I had nothing against him personally, but I needed him to understand that my sister had misrepresented our situation. We were supposed to be partners, and she'd violated that trust. I wasn't asking him to take sides in a family dispute. I was simply asking him to consider my offer on its own merits, as a separate proposal from a qualified buyer. Mr. Volkov listened carefully. He's a businessman, after all, and a better offer is a better offer. I laid out my terms, my financing, my vision for the company, and my timeline. Everything I presented was solid, professional, and exceeded what my sister had proposed. By the end of the meeting, he agreed to consider my offer seriously, and said he'd make his decision within 48 hours. I walked out of that office feeling something I hadn't felt since I overheard my sister's betrayal. Power. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't the naive, trusting sister who could be manipulated and discarded. I was a businesswoman fighting for what should have been ours together, and if she wanted to make this a competition, then I was going to win. For the next 2 days, I avoided my sister's calls and texts. I told her I was busy with work, dealing with some urgent projects. She didn't push too hard, probably because she thought everything was going according to her plan. She had no idea that the ground was shifting beneath her feet. On the 3rd day, I got the call from Mr. Volkov. He decided to accept my offer. The company was mine. He explained that while he felt uncomfortable being in the middle of a family situation, my proposal was simply better from a business standpoint, and he had to do what was best for his interests, and the interests of his employees who would be affected by the sale. He asked if I wanted him to inform my sister, or if I preferred to do it myself. I told him I'd handle it. That afternoon, I called my sister and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop near her apartment. She showed up excited, probably thinking we were going to discuss next steps for our company purchase. She had no idea she was walking into an ambush. I let her talk first. She went on and on about how she thought the meeting with Mr. Volkov had gone well, how she was confident we'd hear back soon, how she could already imagine us working in that beautiful office. Every word dripped with lies, and watching her perform this charade while knowing the truth was almost surreal. If you've ever experienced betrayal from someone you love, you know this pain. And if you're watching this because you've felt this kind of hurt, do me a favor right now. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be sharing more stories about betrayal, survival, and coming out stronger. You're not alone in this pain, and I want to build a community of people who understand what it means to be hurt by those closest to us and still find the strength to fight back. When she finally paused to take a breath, I leaned forward and said, in Russian, "I know everything." The color drained from her face. Completely. She went from animated and excited to ghostly white in seconds. She stammered, "What? What do you mean?" I switched back to English. "I mean, I know about your separate deal with Mr. Volkov. I know you've been planning to buy the company alone. I know you were going to cut me out and pretend it fell through. I know everything, because I speak Russian fluently, and I heard every word you said to that assistant." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, No words came out. She looked like a fish drowning in air. Finally, she managed to whisper, "Michelle, I can explain." "Explain what?" My voice was sharp, cutting. "Explain how you spent months plotting to betray me? Explain how you smiled in my face while planning to destroy our shared dream? Explain how you decided that your jealousy was more important than our bond as sisters?" Tears started forming in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no softness. She'd used up all of my compassion with her lies. You always. Everything always came so easy for you. She choked out. The grades, the scholarships, the praise from mom and dad. I was always in your shadow, always the other daughter. I just wanted something that was mine, just mine. "So you decided to steal what was supposed to be ours?" I shot back. "You could have talked to me. You could have told me how you felt. We could have worked through it. But instead, you chose betrayal. You chose deception. You chose to destroy the one person who would have supported you no matter what." "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. I know I was wrong. Please, Michelle, please forgive me. We can still work this out. We can still be partners. I'll cancel my deal with Volkov, and we can go in together like we planned." This was the moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. The moment where I had to decide who I was going to be. The forgiving sister? The one who takes the high road and rebuilds the relationship? Or the woman who'd learned that sometimes betrayal has consequences that can't be undone? I looked at her tear-stained face, and I felt a strange mixture of pity and disgust. This person had been willing to destroy me for her own gain, and now that she was caught, she wanted forgiveness? She wanted to go back to how things were? "There's nothing to work out," I said quietly. "Because Mr. Volkov already made his decision. He accepted my offer. The company is mine, not ours. Mine." The shock on her face was complete. "What?" But I already made a deal with him. He can't." "He can, and he did," I interrupted. "I made him a better offer, with better terms, and he accepted. You were so busy plotting against me, that it never occurred to you that I might be smarter, more capable, more strategic than you gave me credit for. You underestimated me because you wanted to believe I was naive and trusting. And that was your biggest mistake." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maybe she was. Maybe the sister she thought she knew, the one she could manipulate and betray, never really existed. Or maybe that person died the moment I heard her words in that office. "You did this to get back at me," she said, her voice turning bitter. "This is revenge." "No," I corrected her. "This is survival. This is me refusing to be a victim of your jealousy and deceit. You made a choice to betray me. I made a choice to protect myself and pursue what I deserve. If you want to call that revenge, fine. But from where I'm sitting, it's justice." She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Other customers looked over, but I didn't care. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when betrayal is exposed. "You're going to regret this," she hissed. "Family is supposed to forgive. Family is supposed to stick together. You're throwing away our relationship over a business deal?" The audacity was almost impressive. "I'm not throwing away anything," I said, my voice steel. "You threw it away months ago when you decided your resentment was more valuable than my trust. You threw it away when you plotted behind my back. You threw it away when you laughed about my naivety with a stranger. I'm just acknowledging what you already destroyed." She grabbed her purse and stormed out of the coffee shop, leaving me sitting there alone with my coffee and my victory. And it did feel like a victory, but it was the saddest kind. The kind where winning means losing something you never wanted to lose in the first place. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, meetings, and transition plans. Mr. Volkov was professional throughout, and we completed the sale within a month. I took ownership of the company, met with all the staff, and began implementing my vision. The business that was supposed to be our shared dream became mine alone, and I threw myself into it with everything I had. My sister tried to contact me several times. Angry texts, tearful voicemails, emails that ranged from apologetic to accusatory. I didn't respond to any of them. What was there to say? She'd made her choices, I'd made mine, and now we both had to live with the consequences. Some mutual friends and distant relatives tried to intervene, telling me that I should forgive her, that family is everything, that holding grudges only hurts me in the end. But none of them had stood in that office, hearing their own sister plot their destruction. None of them had felt that particular knife of betrayal twist in their heart. So their opinions, while well-meaning, were irrelevant. About 2 months after I took over the company, I ran into my sister at a grocery store. It was awkward and painful, exactly as you'd expect. She looked tired, defeated. She tried to talk to me, tried once again to apologize, and for a moment, just a brief moment, I felt a flicker of the old affection. This was the person I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, dreamed with, but then I remembered her laugh. That casual, cruel laugh when the assistant asked if she was sure about betraying me, and the flicker died. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I told her. "I really do. But it won't be with me, and it won't be through me. You need to build your own path now, just like I'm building mine." She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I really am sorry, Michelle. I know you don't believe me, but I am. I was jealous and stupid and cruel, and I lost the most important person in my life because of it." "Yes," I agreed, "you did." There was nothing else to say. We stood there for another moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us, and then I walked away. I didn't look back. Looking back never helps. It just keeps you stuck in a past that can't be changed. Running the company has been challenging and rewarding in equal measure. I've had to learn things I never expected, face obstacles I wasn't prepared for, and grow in ways that are sometimes uncomfortable. But it's mine. Every success, every failure, every lesson learned belongs to me. And there's power in that. There's healing in that. Do I miss my sister? Sometimes. Late at night, when the office is quiet, and I'm reviewing reports, I'll think about calling her, sharing a problem, or celebrating a win like we used to. But then I remember that the sister I miss probably never really existed. Or maybe she did, but she was consumed by resentment and jealousy until there was nothing left but the shell of who she used to be. The hardest part isn't the day-to-day absence. It's the big moments, the milestones where you want to turn to family and share your joy or your grief. When the company landed its first major contract, I wanted to call her. When I had to lay off 2 employees due to economic pressures, I wanted her shoulder to cry on. But those moments of weakness pass, and I've learned to build a different kind of support system, friends who've proven their loyalty, business mentors who respect my journey, and ultimately, myself. I've learned to be my own support, my own cheerleader, my own comfort. People ask me if I'll ever forgive her. Honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness is complicated. It's not a switch you flip or a box you check. It's a process, and I'm not sure where I am in that process. Some days I feel like I've moved past the anger. Other days, something will remind me of her betrayal, and the rage comes flooding back, like it just happened yesterday. What I do know is that forgiveness, if it comes, won't mean reconciliation. It won't mean going back to how things were. That relationship is dead, killed by her choices, and buried by mine. Forgiveness, if I ever achieve it, will be about releasing the pain for my own peace, not about restoring what was broken. I've learned some hard lessons through this experience. I've learned that trust, once shattered, can't be glued back together. The cracks will always show. I've learned that blood relation doesn't guarantee loyalty. Family is supposed to mean something, but that meaning can be destroyed by betrayal. I've learned that sometimes the people closest to you harbor resentments you never knew about, feeding them in secret until they grow into monsters that consume everything good between you. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can stand on my own, that I don't need anyone's validation or support to build something meaningful, that my worth isn't determined by who loves me or who betrays me, but by what I choose to do when I'm tested. The company is thriving now. We've expanded our client base, increased revenue by 30%, and I've hired some incredibly talented people who share my vision. Every day, I walk into that office with the floor-to-ceiling windows, and I remember the moment I stood there with my sister, holding her cold hand, sharing a dream that turned out to be a lie. And then I let that memory go, and focus on the reality I've built from the ashes of that betrayal. Would I go back and change things if I could? Would I choose not to understand Russian, to remain ignorant of her plotting, to go through with the partnership unaware of her true intentions? No. As painful as the truth was, it saved me from something worse. It saved me from building a business with someone who would have sabotaged me at every turn. It saved me from years of hidden resentment and eventual catastrophic betrayal. Better to know the truth and face it head on than to live in a comfortable lie. My sister and I haven't spoken in 8 months now. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she moved to another city, started working for a marketing firm. I hope she's doing well. I genuinely do, not because I've forgiven her, but because her well-being doesn't affect me anymore. She's become a stranger, someone from my past who taught me valuable lessons about trust and betrayal. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about that day in the office. Does she replay the moment I spoke to her in Russian, revealing that I'd known all along? Does she regret her choices, or does she just resent me more for outsmarting her? I'll probably never know, and I've made peace with that uncertainty. What I want anyone watching this to understand is that betrayal changes you. It fundamentally alters how you see the world and the people in it. You can't go through something like this and remain the same person. The question isn't whether you'll change, but how you'll change. Will you become bitter and closed off, trusting no one? Or will you become wiser and more selective, learning to trust carefully but still remaining open to connection? I'm still figuring out which path I'm on. Some days I feel wise and empowered. Other days I feel damaged and cynical. Most days, I feel somewhere in between, trying to navigate a world that feels less safe than it did before. But here's what I know for certain. I survived. I didn't let her betrayal destroy me. I didn't collapse into victimhood and give up on my dreams. I fought back. I protected myself. I built something beautiful from something ugly. And that matters. That counts for something. If you're going through something similar, if someone you trusted has betrayed you, I want you to hear this. You will survive. The pain feels infinite right now. I know. It feels like you're drowning in it, like you'll never breathe normally again. But you will. Day by day, moment by moment, you'll rebuild yourself into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who can't be destroyed by another person's choices. Don't let their betrayal define you. Don't let their actions determine your worth. You are more than what was done to you. You are more than their victim. You are a survivor, a fighter, someone who has the strength to rise from ashes and build something new. Before I finish this story, I want to ask you something. If this resonated with you, if you felt this kind of pain, or if you know someone who has, leave a comment below sharing your experience. You don't have to use names or specific details, but share your story. Let's build a community of survivors who understand this particular kind of pain. Because isolation is one of the worst parts of betrayal. Feeling like you're alone in this experience, like no one could possibly understand. But you're not alone. I understand. Others watching this understand. We're here, and we're listening. And one more thing before I go. The company I bought, the one my sister tried to steal from me, I renamed it. It's no longer what Mr. Volkov called it. I gave it a new name, a new identity, a fresh start. Just like I gave myself a new beginning, separate from the past, I shared with my sister. The name I chose is written in my father's handwriting, from a note he left me before he died. He wrote, "Michelle, you have everything you need inside you already. Trust yourself." I had that framed and hung in my office, and I see it every single day. It reminds me that even when the people around me fail me, even when my own sister betrays me, I still have myself. I still have my strength, my intelligence, my determination. And that's enough. That has to be enough. Living with this pain isn't easy. Some mornings I wake up, and for a split second, I forget what happened. I think about calling my sister to share something funny, or ask her opinion. And then reality crashes back, and I remember that she's not my person anymore. She gave up that position when she chose betrayal over loyalty. Those moments hurt in a different way than the initial shock. They're quieter, but somehow deeper. A persistent ache rather than a sharp pain. I've started therapy to process everything. I resisted it at first, thinking I could handle this on my own, that seeking help was somehow admitting weakness. But I've learned that facing your pain head-on, with professional support, is actually the strongest thing you can do. My therapist has helped me understand the complex emotions I'm feeling, the grief not just for the relationship I lost, but for the relationship I thought I had that never really existed. That's one of the strangest parts of this experience. Mourning something that wasn't real. I grieve for the sister I thought I had, the partnership I believed we were building, the future I imagined for us. But those things were illusions, built on my trust and her deception. How do you mourn something that never actually existed? It's a unique kind of loss, and it's taken me months to even begin processing it. The anger comes in waves. Some days I'm fine, focused on work, moving forward with my life. Other days, something small will trigger me. I'll see sisters laughing together in a restaurant, or I'll hear a song we used to sing together, or I'll pass by the street where she used to live, and suddenly, I'm furious all over again. Furious at her betrayal, at my own blindness, at the universe for putting me in this situation. My therapist says that's normal, that healing isn't linear, that I'll have good days and bad days, and both are part of the process. I'm learning to accept that, to give myself grace on the hard days, and celebrate the good ones. One thing that's helped is channeling my pain into purpose. I've become a mentor for young women starting their own businesses. I share my story, not for sympathy, but as a cautionary tale about the importance of protecting yourself, even from those you trust. I teach them about legal protections, about keeping some cards close to your chest, about trusting but verifying. If my pain can prevent even one person from experiencing this kind of betrayal, then maybe it serves a purpose beyond just my own suffering. I won't lie and say I'm completely healed, or that I've moved past this entirely. I haven't. This wound is still relatively fresh, and I'm still figuring out how to live with the scar it's going to leave. But I'm functioning, I'm building, I'm growing, and some days, that's enough. The relationship with my sister is over. I've accepted that. There's no going back, no repairing what was broken. Some things, once destroyed, can't be rebuilt. And maybe that's okay. Maybe not every relationship is meant to last forever. Maybe some people come into our lives to teach us painful but necessary lessons, and then they have to leave for us to fully learn those lessons. What I hope for myself is that eventually, the memory of her won't hurt so much, that I can think about our childhood, the good times we had, without it being overshadowed by her betrayal. That I can remember our father, without wishing he was here to fix this impossible situation. That I can build new relationships, friendships, and maybe even, eventually another business partnership, without being paralyzed by fear of betrayal. I hope for healing, not forgetting, but healing. There's a difference. I'll never forget what she did, and I shouldn't. That memory protects me, keeps me sharp, reminds me to guard my trust carefully, but I can heal from the wound it created. I can become whole again, even with the scar. To everyone who's watched this entire story, thank you. Thank you for witnessing my pain, for holding space for my anger, for understanding the complexity of betrayal by a loved one. Your presence here, your willingness to listen, means more than you know. If this story impacted you, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I'll be sharing more stories about overcoming betrayal and building strength from pain. Second, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's been betrayed and needs to know they're not alone. And third, leave a comment telling me your biggest takeaway from this story. What resonated with you? What will you do differently because of what you heard here today? I read every comment, and I want to hear from you. This is Michelle, signing off. Remember, betrayal doesn't define you, how you rise from it does, and you will rise. I promise you that. You will survive this, and you will build something beautiful from the ruins. I'm proof of that. Stay strong.